ever wondered what it's like to be a baby, existing in a world where nothing makes sense? People make noises, but they don't make sense to you, so you just babble your way into eventually understanding and communicating back? Welcome to Chants of Sennaar. Chants of Sennaar is a deduction puzzle game set in a mystical tower, akin to the biblical Tower of Babel, where multiple cultures coexist at different layers. You wake up, and through a brief tutorial are given the basic mechanics and object of the game. Essentially, you're trying to climb this tower while filling the dictionary with words from different cultures through context clues like paintings, sculptures, and how other characters address you and each other. Let's go through a couple of examples, and before we move on, this is your spoiler warning. You should definitely stop watching the video right now and go play the game for yourself. Okay, so you wake up, wander around a bit, and meet this dude that seems to greet you and give you some simple instructions like follow me, push this lever, go there, do something. All the while, your notebook is getting filled with symbols that correspond to what this person is telling you, and you can annotate these symbols at will when you have a hunch of what those might mean. Eventually, you'll be prompted to match symbols to some illustrations. If you do it successfully, the game will confirm that the answer is correct, and from then on, those symbols will show as translated whenever they appear in the world. While both the premise and gameplay are incredibly simple, Chants of Sennaar is a fantastic game in many different fronts. Soon, you'll reach a point where deciphering the language is just a part of something way grander, and you're yearning to know more about how a culture looks, works, and behaves. You want to understand what this mystical tower is and how you came to be a part of it, your part in this world. In each level of the tower, you'll wander around trying to decipher the language and will eventually be introduced to a central puzzle that will lead you to the next area. You'll start by meeting the devotees. Serving as the extended tutorial, they resemble a standard Western civilization, god-revering, tending to their arts and fields. Their language closely follows English structure, serving again as an extension to the tutorial. Above them are the warriors. Their driving force is the duty, which is to drive the devotees away, which they see and refer to as impure. Upper still are the bards, the technologically simplest civilization of all, which bleeds into their language, which is very primitive and follows fairly different rules. They admire only beauty and mock you endlessly for trying to climb the tower further, while despising the very warriors that worship them below. Above them are the alchemists, driven by their desire to unlock a giant door they believe leads to the creators of the tower. Their language is very technical and contains many glyphs dedicated to numbers and scientific materials, a stark contrast with every other culture. Finally at the top are the Anchorites, or Anchorites, I don't know, the creators of the tower. They've been exiled at the top, and here you finally learn your purpose in this world: to unite the different tribes, opening all doors between them and ending the exile for the Anchorites. I'll say it again, getting to meet the different cultures and just observing both how they're so different from each other in every regard and physically far apart, while also exerting some influence upon each other, was by far my favorite part of the game. What I really liked as well was the final puzzle for each civilization, and the whole point of you learning all these languages. Everything builds up into this final password, quote-unquote, and it's always a great eureka moment when you put every piece into its place and understand how to connect the entirety of the language, the entirety of the world, into this big context clue-depending puzzle that just moves you along into the next level. There's also an optional challenge where you need to translate whole conversations between two members of different cultures. This is surprisingly interesting, because unlike the rest of the game, where you're just matching individual concepts or individual words into an individual image, here you cannot just directly replace words. You need to translate entire sentences, and they need to make sense in their corresponding language, so you really need to understand the structure and how to organize each component, like the verbs and the nouns and the negatives and the questions. With all this said, there were a couple of things that I found very lackluster about the game. First, the language itself takes too much of a backseat as you progress through the game. Eventually, you understand that languages are direct word-for-word translations from each other. And yes, the sentence structure changes slightly from language to language, but not only are these differences never sharp enough to actually matter, but the way the game trudges you along is matching individual concepts one by one. So 95% of what you'll need is always the same. Hello, me, you, want, get, go, and a collection of nouns to go along with it. By the end of the game, figuring out a new language wasn't as much a challenge as it was an exercise in walking around until you could fill everything out in your notebook. My second main issue is the game is very artificially constructed at points. Like, just how many billboards directly translating a random sentence from language A to language B can you see before it starts feeling forced? Also, I don't know about you, but this is certainly not how I arrange my bedroom to keep my coins on easy access by my bedside palm tree. I mean, I know this is a game, not a documentary, but at points it was like, okay, this is a world-building screen. Now, this is a game screen. It was just enough to pull me out of the experience at times. This all combines to make the game in general feel a bit too easy. I am absolutely horrendous at puzzle games, and other than a single instance I can remember, I was never stuck anywhere here. All smooth sailing from start to finish. This all feels a bit harsh, but don't get me wrong, I loved this game tremendously. The unique concept, the carefully crafted world, the wholesome ambience, and overall journey are more than worth it. You should definitely give it a try. See ya.